Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
11:04 on The Lock Shop. Nielson with you right now here on Edmonton Sports Talk. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, please tell your friends. If you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up and sub to the channel. We are closing in on 9,800 subs. It's been a nice day for subs today as we try to make that push to 10,000 before our 1-year anniversary, which is just 2 weeks away. So if you want to throw us a sub, that would be great. You can text us anytime at 780-218-9999. We'll get to a few more of those text messages as we work our way through the show today as well. We are also 2 weeks away from wrapping up Two Guys and the Oil Stream at 1 o'clock and sending you straight to EST Afternoons with Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage. How exciting is that? I cannot wait. Nanso and Gager are going to come together perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. It's going to be an incredible show. Very excited to add that to our EST roster along with Reed Wilkins and Glue Guy in the afternoon. No reason to go anywhere else. We've got you covered right here. Everything you need to know about sports, entertainment, static free, 24/7, right here and only here on Edmonton Sports Talk. And super excited to have Hernan back, man. Not back. He'd never been with us, but he was with us at the old place. Always was one of the guys. And he saw we were looking and he's like, oh, I'll reach out to the boys. And as soon as he reached out, I was like, well, I mean, come on, man. Of course we're going to want you back. So we're going to add him to pre and post game as well. And those of you who were around in the prime Latino Heat era, you know what we're talking about. Hernan is going to bring a lot of juice and a lot of fire to the post game show, and that's going to be outstanding. So very much looking forward to that as well. And, Gager's been working with us a lot. He's one of those guys that will do whatever you need of him. So he's been in on the mornings with me for a little bit and sat down with him last week. And I was like, Gager, I said, you're like part of the family already. Do you want to just be around a little bit more and come and work with Hernan? And he was like, it took him one night, messaged me. The next morning I see him, he goes, I'm in. I'm ready to go. So very, very exciting to be going 6 to 6 right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. And Lock Shop obviously will still be a big part of that as well. Sobkirk says, I wish I could make the poker tonight, but I got a co-ed soccer match. That's a tough one. I can't believe I tricked people with that announcement this morning. I thought you guys would be on to me. I thought the moment we're like, we'll have Hernan in because he's never been in, and we usually don't have him in because he works for the Elks. But, like behind the scenes type of thing. So I thought somebody was going to call us out on that one. But they did not. They did not. Huss is just restarting his camera, Zach, and then he'll... Zach, nobody cut on. I think Trev, I printed off that release today. I gave it to Trev. I said, hey, I'm going to give you a little sign, and you bring this release over to me. And Hernan and Gage are in on it, too. I said, bring the release over to me. And I'm going to read a release like it's actually breaking news with the... I don't know. I thought it worked out really well. Yeah.
No, it was genius. Nobody knew it would happen. If you didn't tell me previous to today that we were going to be bringing Hernan and Gage as the afternoon show,
totally
I would have known. Yeah, it would have caught me off guard completely. Could be up. It will be going in the nominations for Moment of the Year, right?
Bob, we had you getting hired live on the air as something for Moment of the Year. Remember how excited you were?
I was pumped.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, I still think about it. That's my personal moment for me of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm not voting myself. If I got to vote it, top three, the Hernan Salas.
I'm glad we
Joaquin
managed
Gage
to trick
right
people,
there.
man. I was very excited about that. Very excited about it. Hernan, he was great on the mic today. He hasn't been on the mic a lot lately, but he was great today. And he and Joaquin Gage are going to have an absolutely phenomenal show. I do apologize to my buddy Dahmer and everybody over at the Edmonton Elks for stealing Hernan from you. But you'll land on your feet. You've won 3 in a row. You're rolling right now. You're going to miss Hernan, but we're gonna take very good care of him. So apologies to everybody at the Elks. But in the end, I don't really feel that bad. All right, we got a poker game tonight. We're going to discuss that. There's a little bit of a hiccup, but it looks like we're good to go. I was just checking the Coolbet Poker app, and I'm all registered for the tournament. I'll cash my ticket when it's tournament time. And let's bring it. Huss is going to be in the tournament tonight. His buddy Remo is going to be in the tournament. Gazzola's in the tournament. Gazzola's dad, who actually plays poker, like goes to tournaments, he's going to be in the tournament. Owanik's in the tournament. Glue Guy's going to be in the tournament. Huss, it should be a lot of fun tonight. I'm really looking forward to this. And do you want to explain what happened last night? Like the time change screw up on the tournament start?
We got time zoned.
Yeah,
it happens. We got time zoned. I mean, I've done this before with a fantasy draft, where we set it for a particular time, and I don't know, it was set up on Eastern time, and it's kind of different because you're in Edmonton, I'm in Winnipeg, the guys are out east. I think the client server where this is set up is overseas. So anyways, it was a bit of a mess. Shout out to Jason the Acadian, though, for pointing that out, because if he didn't, I don't know whether he was just going in to enter or what. He goes, I'm in the tournament right now playing against everybody else that is just being blinded out. So anyways, thanks to him to do that. And it was just a minor detail of how it was set up. So it's back. I think there was a little work on back end to re-enter everyone that had. But the bottom line is I think we got about 22, 23 people already. We got room for more. So if you do want to play with us tonight, 9 p.m., the cards will be dealt in Edmonton. Sorry, 9 p.m. here
8 p.m. in Edmonton, yes.
Time zoning myself here.
And we're not going to stream this one live. We're like, it's the first one. Let's get it in. Let's make sure it goes smooth. And then we do have plans to possibly stream these in the future. But we just kind of want to get this one in, make sure it goes smoothly. And I also don't want to stream when I'm going to crush everybody. So that's not a good look the first time. So...
Well, my other worry about tonight was the fact that I have my most in-depth, deep fantasy auction starting at 7.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hopefully blow through my cash in the first 2 hours and then just be able to really focus on poker. But there could be a little bit of...
I also have a fantasy draft tonight.
Yeah.
I would be double dipping. It's that time
of the year. Got to make sure, you get your hands in. All right, I'm folding there.
You have to you have to stay focused. I mean, some of us just have to grind during this time. And if that's poker tournaments and fantasy drafts at the same time, well then darn, I'm just going to have to take that bullet and I'm going to have to do it for people.
Hey, it just sounds terrible. An online poker tournament with the guys and a fantasy draft. Just twist my rubber arm. Here's what you need to know. If you haven't already entered the tourney, go to Coolbet. I'm presuming most of you probably have already been doing sports betting there. If you're basically good to go. As far as you don't need to deposit separately or whatever. It's €20 entry, which is $30. And when you click on poker on Coolbet, you will be taken to the poker site and download the poker app. And I have just done this on my desktop. But I'd imagine it'll work for you if you're doing it on an iPad or on an iPhone, whatever. You get the poker app in there and then go to tourneys and you will see. And again, you're going to have to go through down to the time. Or maybe the best bet is just you'll see the magnifying glass. Just put in lock shop tourney will go up and then go in and enter and be at your computer and ready to go at 9 p.m. at 8 p.m. in Edmonton and at 9 p.m. here in Winnipeg. God.
So who got time zoned? It sounds like you're getting time zoned all the time. Wait a second. Did you not screw up an interview on a time zone thing last week? Remember, you're like,
that wasn't
you.
Me. That was the guys in Saskatchewan. And listen, Saskatchewan is the worst place in Canada for time zoning people because they are one way for 6 months of the year and they're the other way for the other 6 months. Like right now, I believe Regina is on your time and
that's right.
1 hour later than Winnipeg. Once we get into the winter, Regina is on our time and 1 hour earlier than you. So
what a pain in the ass.
It is.
It just is. I mean, I'll just call it out. It's a pain in the ass.
But again, just go to the Lock Shop Poker app. You'll find the Lock Shop. If you want to go through the times for tonight, do it that way, or just search Lock and it'll come up and get in there. As I said, there's $100 bounty on Dusty's head. There's $100 bounty on my head. And That should make things interesting. And other than that, we'll let her rip tonight. So it should be a lot of fun. I know there's a lot of I've seen T. Will from WST. I think Duck Dad's in there. I think he was mentioning yesterday in the chat. So it'll be good. And you know what? With the day that you guys have had so far, a nice little escape from everything happening around the team. I was in there today. Huge turnout. I mean, you were the biggest beneficiary of the timing of when the Oilers had to match. Was it like 7:30 in the morning?
Yeah, we hit, I think Trev said our max was like 1,100 live at one time today. It was the morning after Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, buddy. It was insane. Like it was wild. I mean, it was look, this whole week has been great news for us. Like, thank you very much to the Blues and the Oilers for having this thing drag out for a week. The reaction, you know what? The reaction's kind of been, Huss, what would you expect the reaction to be? Let me ask you this. What would you expect the reaction to be like in Edmonton with Broberg and Holloway, your only two young pieces really on the roster, leaving to go somewhere else?
I mean, I think there's obvious disappointment that it got to this point because it was totally avoidable. I mean, I would think that there are like, put it this way. I saw a bunch of people taking shots at Holloway. Like, he's going to fire his agent tomorrow. Oh, really? I don't know about that. You tell most people they're going to double their salary. And let's not forget that when at the end of this 2-year deal, he has to be qualified off of that salary as opposed to what he was getting. Like, listen, the Oilers misplayed their hand. I don't know if there's any other way to say this. I mean, they spent all their money on veterans on July 1st and thought that they were just going to be able to squeeze these kids to take way below what they should even be getting as RFAs, knowing what the CBA is, because, hey, sorry, we don't have any money and we're trying to win the cup. I could see how that would rub those guys the wrong way, and certainly their agents. So they were able to go from making $1 million. I mean, what was I think Darren Ferris said today that the Oilers offer to Broberg was 2 years at 1.1.
Yeah.
He got 4.5.
Yeah. I think it's like
you're going to hold that against the guy? Like, listen, the Oilers blew it big time by not, like, the ask of those two players was $3 million total for this year. 1.8 for Broberg. That's what they were hoping to get. 1.2 for Holloway. They do that. They come down a little bit. They're getting both of those players for less than $3 million. They left themselves wide open to this. And you know why this doesn't happen very often in the National Hockey League? Because teams don't expose themselves the way the Oilers did. And I don't know any other way to say it. Like, the fact that they let those guys go, back to your original question about, I mean, I think they're disappointed. I mean, I think they see these guys that they put a lot into them. They developed. They were impact players when it counted the most in the conference finals and in the Stanley Cup final. And it really sucks to have them walk away. I guarantee you right now that if the contracts were what they asked for, if St. Louis put the offer sheet at 1.8 and the Holloway was at 1.2, the Oilers matched that in a heartbeat. That's less than Cody Cece's money. And they still ended up trading Cece, which is sort of an interesting development considering they didn't re-sign these guys. But I mean, I think fans get attached to players, and certainly there's nothing more exciting than having good young prospects with your team. Well, actually, there's one thing more exciting than that: having Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So consider yourselves lucky. But generally, for fans, you love to see these guys. You get picked. We overvalue our own prospects all the time, and that's the other thing. Like, who knows how they'll actually end up in another market or another team? But the fact of the matter was, they were being really taken advantage of by the Oilers and the CBA, trying to get them in at what they thought they were going to do. And frankly, I think part of the plan might have been to wait on these guys and have them not sign until the regular season started, so they could figure things out. If they're putting Evander Kane on LTIR, they do that, and then they bring these guys out to bring it up. I can't say that I blame them for kind of walking away because, I mean, those numbers just don't work with, a team that's built the way Edmonton is right now. But I do think that it was entirely avoidable. And I don't know whether they just got so excited with all the guys that wanted to play there and wanted to stick around, and adding Arvidsson, who's a hell of a player, and they just sort of put this on the back burner to a point where they couldn't even come close to a fair offer for these guys. And next thing you know, Doug Armstrong swoops in, and and then they sign those guys. So I don't hold it against the players. I mean, I think St. Louis, did something like, listen, they're massively overpaying for these guys. I think we can all agree on that. But they're getting two pretty nice young assets, both first rounders for the price
and they had the cap room to do it. Mike, if you got cap room to do this stuff and you don't think it screws you over long term, more teams should try to take advantage of teams that find themselves in spots. But as I mentioned, not a lot of teams are putting themselves in these spots. Well, who I feel really bad for is Cody Ceci. Like, Cody Ceci gets dealt to the San Jose Sharks for what at the time looked like a move to clear up cap space to at least keep Broberg. And what I find very interesting here is, like, with Evander Kane on the LTIR, they can afford Broberg. And people still seem to think close to the team that Evander Kane's going to end up on the LTIR, and they still didn't match on Broberg. So I don't know what's happening on the Kane front.
Well, here's the one thing that I think people are a little short-sighted with when talking about that. I expect Evander Kane to go on LTIR right at the start of the year, and they'll be able to get under the cap, but they'll be right there.
Yeah.
Or certainly if they acquired those guys. I mean, there was a way that they could have done it. And listen, I spent, a couple hours with Shovel Day off. We were doing this event together and had a bunch of time just sitting around. So I was, bouncing some questions off of him. And, I kind of brought this up. And I was sort of asking about the LTIR rules. How does this work? And we kind of got into another question, how it is pretty contentious amongst NHL GMs that, there's a cap in the off season. You can go up to 10% over. There's a cap during the regular season. But then the most important time of the year, there's no cap. And some guys really like that, and others feel like that's totally outside of the spirit of the CBA. But when it comes to LTIR, like, Evander Kane's not retiring. Like, he's not done. Like, he's going to be coming back. They're going to want him to play. Like, you can't just assume that this guy's out for the season. And when all of a sudden he finishes up and he's ready to go, and you got to activate him, then you're in the same situation. Like, he has to be, like, you still have to be cap compliant during the regular season. Yeah. And it is totally outside of the CBA to say, hey, this is a 3-month injury, do it. And then we're just going to have you chill for another 3 months. You can skate and we'll get. Now, have other teams sort of taken advantage of this? Absolutely.
Yeah, Kucherov skated for like 5 weeks.
For 5 weeks. But again, like, no one said that Evander Kane's out for the season.
No, I passed along this morning. I was told by somebody in the organization when I was at the rink for the Holinka that if he has to have, like, both sides of whatever's bothering him done, he could miss the entire season. So, like, I don't think they're expecting him back in, like, December. I think this is something that they would now, we were asking today, somebody said today in the chat that, like, he hasn't had the surgery yet because his surgeon's been on vacation for, like, a long time. And I'm like, that's because there is only one surgeon. There's only one surgeon in the world. So, but it's been 4 months they've been on vacation. So we'll see how this sorts out. Now, as of this morning, fair point, Huss. As of this morning, including Kane's contract, which if he goes on the LTIR and you sort of accrue the cap space and then you can bring him back, as of this morning, they're $955,000 under the cap. So, they're under the cap with Kane counting. The other two guys are gone. So there would be a spot where you could activate him off the LTIR at some point, assuming you've got the correct cap space, and would not have to have him on there for the entire regular season. They put themselves in that spot, right? So, and
again, I mean, we'll need to get somebody on, our respective shows, capologist, if you will. And again, if you said this to me, and I can't remember, because, like, with Brian Little with the Winnipeg Jets, when he went on LTIR, the Jets were basically right around the cap, which is where you want to be. Like, if you are a little bit below the cap, and then you put the guy on, you're not gaining the full benefit through the year of that LTIR, the LTIR move. So, I mean, put it this way: if the Oilers are good enough that they can go through the first half of the season, let's say without Evander Kane, and the roster that they have right now, and if you get to that point, where he comes back in, like the key is if they can be accruing cap space throughout the year, which wasn't even a possibility at a certain point, then what are they able to do at the deadline? And keeping in mind, they've got a couple extra picks to throw around if they feel like they are planning on moving that. So listen, I can only imagine what it was like in that front office of the Oilers over the last week, having to deal with all the permutations of this. But I have a feeling that early on, they figured that they weren't going to be keeping these guys. Like, I don't think that they made the CC trade going, oh, we're making this move so we can match the offer sheets, and then decided in the couple days since they traded CC that they didn't want to go that route. I mean, they were probably obviously trying to trade CC for a while. They finally got a taker in Mike Greer, who took him on. And if the offer sheets never happen, is CC still an Oiler right now? Yeah, probably. But do you not think that, considering the way they dealt him, they were still looking to get away from that cap a little bit? And you can say it like, listen, would you rather have Cody Ceci or Adam Henrique? That's basically what they did, right? I mean, they moved that
pretty much,
up.
except their blue line is significantly worse right now than it was last year. Like, Vincent Desharnais gone. He's in Vancouver. Cece's gone. Broberg's gone. And you've replaced them with Troy Stetcher, who you didn't even really give a look at last year when you brought him in. You replaced him with this Emberson, who they got from San Jose in the CC deal, who some people like and can say they think that maybe he could eventually play top 4 minutes, but he was only playing 18 minutes a night on a garbage San Jose team. If he was any sort of good, I'm assuming a team that wants to build in a better direction probably would have wanted to keep him around. And then you've got Josh Brown, who they signed, who the moment they signed him, I had people text me being like, this guy can't play. Like, he's your number 7 and he fights people. It's as simple as that. So now, with that being said, as somebody said in the nasty chat earlier here, and this is pretty basic, this will not be the blue line that they are running out there after the deadline. No. Like, they will either, maybe even before the season, but probably at the deadline, they'll use the second and third round picks they got in the Broberg and Holloway deal and try to add a veteran defenseman that can play with Darnell Nurse, right? Like, that's what's going to, that's worst case scenario, is they wait until the deadline to add somebody.
It's amazing. I just pulled up Puckpedia, and it was Capitals, then Oilers on the list. Now you got to go all the way down to the middle of the pack right now for the Oilers. Yeah. You have 946. And you know what? I think it's a good thing too. Like, the thought of them going like 11-6 to start the season or something was nuts. But if only they could have gotten a taker. Does Darnell have a full no move, Nurse?
He can't go anywhere. He can't go anywhere. So, but we were talking about this morning. Somebody's like, they need to find an Ekholm to play with Nurse. And I said, Gage and I were talking about after, we're like, wait a second. This guy makes multiple Ekholms. He's well, I mean, every team would love to have 6 Ekholms, 5 Ekholms and a Bouchard. But Nurse isn't supposed to need somebody with him to make him better. He makes the amount of money that he's supposed to be the guy that makes somebody next to him better. And he hasn't been that guy, or at least he wasn't for a good chunk of the playoffs. He got it going, I think, a little bit, maybe later on. But they'll find they'll have a plan on the blue line. You're not rolling into the playoffs with Stetcher, Josh Brown, and Ty Emberson. That's just not happening.
Is Emberson? Are people getting all horny for Emberson now?
Of course, there are people like, I've heard that he can play top 4. I'm like,
great numbers.
Come on. Well, that's the thing. Well, actually, I looked at some of the player cards online, and one only had him like a 45% WAR or whatever it is. So I don't even know if the numbers are great, but you hear from some people who are like, "Oh, I think he might be able to play top 4." Oh, he played for Knobloch in the American League. I get it, but he only played 18 minutes a night for a god awful San Jose team. So, I mean, if he was that good, why didn't he play more, and why didn't they keep him? Because this just in. San Jose's probably not usually in the business of trading 23 and 24-year-olds right now. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
It's fascinating, and there's so many angles to cap management right now, and it is a 12-month-a-year job for the general managers and their staffs. And I think that, I really think part of the reason this happened was the fact that they had this gap between Ken Holland and Stan Bowman. Because as I said, like if you would have told people at the start of summer, or if you could tell people right now, hey, the asks were 1.8 and 1.2. Would you prioritize $3 million of your cap to keep Holloway and Broberg here for next year? 99% of people would say absolutely. They didn't do that, and they got burned by it. And
the other angle to look at too is that the Oilers got to get a Draisaitl deal done here at some point. And
exactly.
Broberg and Holloway at combined almost $7 million. That's technically $7 million that you don't have to give to Leon Draisaitl. So
again, and if they'd done it the other way, that would have been $4 million. You can. And the other thing that people never think about is that because of the fact that they signed these offer sheets and this is their salary for this year, if they had matched that, they have to qualify those guys to maintain their rights at those numbers, not what it would have been if they got it done before.
And you can't move them in the next year. You can't just be like, oh, we'll get Broberg and trade him somewhere. Like you can't. So
no. So this is the way it's down. Like I don't think that they're done. Like I think Stan's just sort of getting ready to cook, if you will. But like, what was the? I mean, I was in on your show for a while. I was checking out the chat, and
we put up a poll. We put up a poll at one point that said, I think Trev's poll. The question was, are you sad or are you mad that the Oilers didn't match on Broberg and Holloway? And 60% of people said no. Like 60% of people were okay with them not matching, which kind of surprised me a little bit. It did, just because there was some good Holloway and Broberg buzz coming out of the playoffs. Like Holloway looked like a guy that was ready to be a regular contributor next year, and Broberg looked like a guy who sort of finally had at least arrived to a full-time National Hockey League level. But 60% of the people on that vote today said no, they weren't sad that they didn't match.
Well, but I think it's all because of the price. I mean, imagine this. There's a restaurant that makes great burgers, and they're coming around, and they're actually, you remember you had them last spring, and they actually were really good. And you were thinking about going to get those burgers today. And that the price of the burgers are $10. And they should be $10. And then you get there late. You miss the happy hour or whatever. You get there an hour later on, and now the burgers are $40 and $22. You don't feel as good about buying the burgers because one's 4 times the price and the other one's 2.5.
And if you only have $20 in your wallet, you can't have either of them.
Well, that's the other thing. You could barely scrape together the Holloway burger. Never mind the Bro burger.
Speaking of burgers, good burger reference here. So I was in Vancouver on Saturday, Sunday, Monday or whatever. And I was just walking around. I got in Saturday, took a late flight out of Regina, got in, was walking around figuring out where I was going to go grab a bite to eat. And Dwayne Ford, who loves food, Dwayne Ford had told me about this place, and I totally forgot about it, but it's called Burger Crush. Have you ever been to Burger Crush?
No, but I have one.
Oh, you guys... Oh. So I totally forgot that it was a place Dwayne recommended. So I get in, and they got this Burger Crush sauce, and I had this burger, and it was bloody delicious. And then I'm walking on, I'm like, wait a second. So Dwayne was telling me a couple of years ago, he goes, have you been to Burger Crush? And I was like, I've never been down there. It's 2 blocks from the hotel. I've been going to Vancouver for games for 4 years, never knew. And every time he lands, like he goes to the airport, checks in, and goes straight to Burger Crush. He's like, that's the first thing I do when I get to Vancouver. And now that I've had it, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. It's good. Next time you're in a city with a Burger Crush, I highly suggest you check it out. It's good.
Listen, I'm down for any good burger recommendation. That is for sure. Hey, okay, so Penner's Pancakes, and I know you guys will be getting to this on the next show. We'll be touching on it too on WST once we get the audio from this presser. But this is from Bowman, I guess, courtesy of Rashog, who was down there. This is what I was mentioning. the Oilers can now start the season with Kane on the roster. If he can't play, which is likely at least for a while, they'll move him to LTIR after the season starts, allowing them to accrue cap space while he's out. So, to your point, this is not the finished product of this roster. But by moving CC and not signing these deals for Broberg and Holloway, as tough as it is, what they're going to end up doing is being able to take advantage of the LTIR, which they wouldn't have been able to do before because they would have been right there at the cap, even with Evander being on the roster. That LTIR money that they are getting the benefit, they'll actually see the benefit of Evander going on LTIR. That extra cap space will accrue throughout the year or while he's there. They'll be able to bring him back onto the roster when he's able to play without making roster moves, and they'll have cap savings saved up that they can use at the end of the year at the trade deadline. So this could work out well in the short term for the Oilers, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I look at this roster, and I mean, I know Holloway's a good young guy, and Broberg probably was going to be playing in an increased role, but I think they'll be able to get through. And by the time we get to the day after the trade deadline, I think we're probably looking at an Oiler team that has had and added one or two more guys on the blue line and looks legitimately ready to do what they did last year, but win one more game in the finals.
Oh, it'll be interesting to see how they manipulate this roster throughout the year, and also if they get any injuries on their back end. They're probably in a little bit of trouble, but they got a good enough team up front that they should be able to cruise through the regular season and at least be battling for top spot in the Pacific with a couple of other teams, I would think. Huss, did you guys guess CFL lines yesterday?
No, because
they're up now. They're up. Oh, they were already up yesterday.
They were up, so we just sort of went through them, and we should take a look at that, and then we'll get to some baseball tonight. Yeah. By the way, shout out to the Red Sox bullpen. Your ineptitude saved me last night from starting off 0-1 with the plays of the day for the week. Big rally by the Astros. I saw a stat that in the Red Sox bullpen has allowed twice as many runs as the next worst bullpen over the course of the last 40 games, 45 games, or whatever it was. It was a crazy, crazy number. But it was looking a little rough there. And then sure enough, they got to it, got 1 in 8, got 1 in 9. And Kikuchi didn't get the win, but he was up there. Another 7 strikeouts for Kikuchi. The strikeout props on USA this year have been so good and continue to be good in Houston. If you do like supporting one of our favorite former Jays. Speaking of Jays, you heard that sounds like Bo wants out.
I saw this pop up yesterday. I didn't dive into it too much, but I saw some initial reports.
Yeah, he's not interested in extending past 2025. So, I mean, listen, I think that guy has looked checked out all season long. And it's sort of weird. Like, I would have said at the start of the year, it was more likely that Bo was a long-term Jay than Vlad. But
yeah,
Vladdy basically cut his hair and turned into a MVP caliber player. And Bo's been injured or sulking or just not himself or whatever. So, I mean, he does have one more year in his contract. Very talented young player. I think his value's diminished a little bit this year with the campaign that he's had, but the remake of this roster in the offseason is going to be very, very fascinating when it comes to the Jays.
Definitely. Do you want to stick with baseball right now? Then we'll get to CFL lines. We're kind of talking baseball already.
Sure. Why don't we do that?
Let's start with the trend. Let's just start with the trend. Where is it? Rod Z. Atlanta Braves money line. Braves are 20-0 on Tuesday nights versus the NL East. God, I love you, Rod Z. I absolutely love your.
They're plus 125 tonight at home to the Phillies. Let's check out the, it's a heck of a pitching matchup too. Lopez versus Wheeler. This is probably really the game of the night.
Yeah.
They had that really ugly stretch. I think they lost 5 in a row. Or 6 in a row to the Marlins, the Brewers, and 1 game to the Rockies. I think I might have bet them 3 of those 6 games. So I'm a little shy on the Braves right now. I'm not sure that Tuesday night NL East trend is something that we can entirely take to the bank. But when you look at this matchup tonight, I mean, Lopez has a 2.06 ERA. His ERA at home is 1.74. He's coming off, actually, it was a shorter appearance. I guess he's been back and forth in between starting and sometimes in the pen. He went against the Mets last week and just pitched the 3 innings. They ended up winning 9-2, but had been involved in 3 losses before that. But I guess the team just wasn't particularly good. And then you got Zach Wheeler on the other side, 12-5 with a 2.72. He's got 6, 8, 5, 7. I mean, he had one brutal game where he got absolutely torn up by the Yankees. Other than that, the guy has been absolutely nails. Other than that, 4 earned runs in his last 4 starts outside of that ugly game against the Yankees. And the Phillies right now, if you look at the standings, I mean, Philadelphia has a 7-game lead on the Braves. This is a game that the Braves actually absolutely have to have when you think about it. If they want to get back into it, even a chance of catching them in the AL East, they got to get some wins this series.
And I like Milwaukee as a dog against St. Louis. They've won 8 of their last 9 against St. Louis, and I do believe they've got a bit of an advantage in the pitching matchup tonight. What's the number on the Brewers? Let's see here. Plus 102. So we went Atlanta, Milwaukee. It's plus 355, Huss. That's one of our bigger 2-gamers in quite some time.
Yeah, that was nice. We got the win on Friday too. Who was that? It was the Patty and Jake.
Yeah.
Banged one, and there's a few nice ones. Well, you know what? I'm actually more than happy to keep riding with the Astros.
Okay.
They had to come from behind last night. They're let's see, what do we got on Coolbet right now for Houston tonight?
Minus 120.
Okay, minus 120. This is, I think, good value. Blanco's pitching for Houston. He's got a sub-3 ERA. He's 9-6. The Astros are at home. And Pivetta is 4.5 ERA, 5-8 so far. And you look at the Red Sox, they've lost their last 2, 4 of their last 6. I mean, they have not been very good for the better part of the last 2 weeks. And, as they say, blew that lead last night. Their bullpen, if it gets close in the final innings, you got to like the other side. So I'm in with the other game that I guess we could think about is, Baltimore's getting.
Well, Houston, Milwaukee's plus 270. So that's still not too bad. But
we probably get that to 3-1.
I bet you it'd be close to 3-1. So let's lock that in. Jake, I don't know. Somebody's watching. Jake, Patty, whoever's watching. Let's roll this out. You'll be able to find it. They'll give us a little bit of a boost here. You'll be able to find it at Coolbet. Milwaukee plus 102. Astros minus 120. Plus 270. Hey, quick note in the net.
A big start from Freddie Montas tonight.
Come through for us. Reality Sound says, damn, now that I think about it, I sold you a burger, Nielsen. A chicken burger. I used to run Wally's fast food up in Grassland. Well, I don't think I would have ever got a chicken burger at Wally's, because at Wally's, I was only crushing doubles and triples. Cheeseburgers. Because this Wally's place, it was on the way between here and Fort Mac. And I worked at Fort Mac for a while. And then for a year, Tammy, after we got engaged, she stayed and taught up there, and I came down here to work at 1260. So for a year, one of us was driving the 4.5 hours one way or the other every weekend. And whenever I was on the road, man, there would probably be some weekends I got to Grassland, had a burger, and then called Tam and was like, I don't know if I'm coming up this weekend. I already got the Grassland burger. I'm going back home. Man. Wally's, I haven't been up to Fort Mac in 6-7 years, but I don't think Wally, Reality Sounds will tell us here, but I'm pretty sure that Wally's doesn't exist anymore, which is a pain in the ass, because that was one of my, if I had to go top 10 burgers in life, that Wally's burger is up there. It's a top 10, 100%. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Sorry, I just pulled up the lines for the CFL.
2 big ones this week, buddy.
Had you seen them last week? Had you seen them yet?
I saw them just this morning. I didn't see them. No.
So yesterday, and I mentioned this is another little bit of every now and then you get some really good advice on this program. The Bombers opened up as minus 7.5 point favorites against Hamilton.
2.5
listen,
points.
I know that's a big number, but I don't think we're sticking around 7.5 for a while, considering the way the Bombers have been playing and the way the Ticats have been playing. It's moved 2.5 points in the last 24 hours.
That's
Bombers
a huge move.
Double. We haven't seen I guess there's been a couple Alouettes games where they've been 7.5 point favorites. I'm not sure we've had a double-digit spread all year in the CFL yet.
There were some close ones around 9 with Calgary earlier in the year. I don't know if it was going out to Montreal or something. There was one that I think we moved up to 10, but this is a rare week where we've got 2 that are bigger than 6 points. With that being said, I'm still on the Bombers here. And we'll get to our picks later in the week. Thursday I'm gone. I have to drive to Calgary because to fly to Winnipeg, but
you have to drive to Calgary.
Well, I'm driving. So this weekend, I saw Dallas asking if I was doing the game. I am doing the game, but here's this. This is a great weekend for me, Huss. This is I wish I wasn't doing any games this week, but I'm doing the Winnipeg game, which is good. I like being at Princess Auto Stadium. I'm driving to Calgary, flying out around 2:30, getting into Winnipeg, calling the game in Winnipeg, and then I'm supposed to be on a 6:50 a.m. flight Saturday morning back to Calgary, land in Calgary at like 8:20 or something, grab my truck, go to High River, pick up my buddy, and then be in Lethbridge for a tea time at noon, which will be followed by the Juan Rincon football and hockey league drafts that night. Once again, sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and that's what I'm doing with a jam-packed Saturday.
The second you said, well, here's my week, I knew it wasn't like I'm not going out and doing the Ottawa game or the Montreal game.
No.
100%. I knew you were going to say it had something to do with the fantasy draft. And we've been doing this together long enough. I do remember the Juan Rincon fantasy draft league. So,
but we do football. We do like a 11-round football draft because we have 4 keepers. And then we do a prospect hockey draft, which is 5 rounds of all the most recent drafted guys. And then we do a 15-round draft of hockey. So we're drafting like 30, 35 rounds on Saturday. So, and that's after golfing and having some birdie booze because I'm bringing down a full supply of birdie booze for the boys. So it's going to be a long drive back on Sunday from Lethbridge.
Have you started making some good cocktails with that birdie booze? Have you guys started to experiment with some other things with it?
It's funny you bring that up because I haven't yet because it's really good on its own. Now, we do have a drop shot into our 6 o'clocker lager that we call the early bird because it just works out. Birdie booze, 6 o'clocker lager. So that's our early bird shot. But somebody texted in today and said birdie booze with Sprite and a little lime is apparently delicious.
I was about to suggest something like that. We were golfing up at by my cottage on the weekend, and we were just mashing beers for the front 9, and we came around to the turn, and they had a drink that was tequila, blue Gatorade, maybe a little bit of Sprite and some lemonade, I think, in it. But it was blue, and it was the blue Gatorade, but it reminded me of the birdie booze, which then reminded me of a drink I had the previous weekend before. Someone did a Pink Whitney, a couple of shots of Pink Whitney with soda water and some Sprite. It was amazing. And just thinking, like, I haven't had a chance to try the birdie booze yet, but those drinks, the pink, the blues, you put that in with Sprite, soda, tons of ice, maybe a little bit of lemonade or lime or something like that. I mean, perfect summer drink. So I'm sure you guys can get in the lab on the weekend with everything that you're bringing out.
We'll look after it. We'll look after it. I'm bringing a Mickey for each of the boys, and then I'm going to bring a couple of 2-6s as well. So it should be. So far with all the birdie booze I've drank, I've never had a hangover from it, which is it's I mean, it's amazing.
How would you describe its flavor? Like, is it?
That's a good one. I don't know, like blue. Like it's blue. I describe it as blue. Like, yeah, that's the only way I know how to describe it. It's like blue. It tastes like blue. That's what it tastes like. Hey, quickly on this CFL thing, the Elks 6.5 against the Alouettes. Alouettes only have one loss. They found a way. I mean, if Lothar doesn't suck, the Riders probably beat them. But I don't know. 6.5 is pretty big. But you think we'll side with Montreal come Thursday picks?
Oh, you know what? I'm interested to hear what's up with the quarterback. Like, is there a chance that Ford plays? I guess they're just getting back to practice right now.
Heard a rumor today that even if he can dress, they might still go with MBT.
Yeah, I could see. Like, put it this way: I think the Montreal defense, it's so good. I mean, Noel Thorpe schemes a hell of a game. I think I actually would do the same thing and put MBT in. Listen, the team's on a run. If they lose on the road to Montreal, it's not considering what's happened over the last few weeks, it's not a devastating hit. I mean, they're still going to be right in the middle of it either way.
And then they get Calgary for 2, so they're right there.
And I think, if there's any thought of like rushing him back or you're putting him in and then, he has a real rough game against Montreal, does that sort of derail some of the momentum that he had? Who do they have after Montreal?
Calgary, Winnipeg.
Oh, you know what? I actually think that might be a smart move. You give MBT this week, hope for the best, and then get Ford back in the mix for the back-to-back and Labor Day.
Well, you got to do what you got to do in the battle of the best 2 teams in the Canadian Football League, right? So there you go, Edmonton and Montreal.
Well, hey, I asked Farhan this yesterday on the show.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about on CFL 110 tomorrow. Who's the best team in the West right now?
Great question. Tough not to say the Bombers, but I think I might still go Riders with Trevor Harris back for now. Like the back-to-backs between the Bombers and Riders are going to be insane. Fair. I wish I was calling both of them. Like it just, I think I'd probably go Harris right now and the Riders, followed closely by the Bombers. BC's offense has just been awful for like 4 weeks now. I don't know what's going on there. But I'd probably go BC and then Edmonton close and then Calgary.
Hey, whatever about the BC offense. I mean, the Bomber defense has been playing incredible. They had a couple tough runs and they lost those 2 games before. What is more concerning is that defense. And again, like the Bombers were able to be incredibly conservative in both of those games, to beat BC. We had Farhan on yesterday and he said, he was like, listen, don't worry about Nathan Rourke and, whether it's him or VA playing moving forward. I mean, they'll get back to it and they'll start moving the football. They've got major issues on the other side of the ball. And, while we originally here in Winnipeg thought the Bombers were going to be the team that was going to have to win 40-35 this year because they have all the studs on offense, but, a young rebuilding defense. That hasn't been the case so far. And part of the reason why the Bombers are 10-point favorites. The other lines this week, the Riders are underdogs on the road against the Argos. I think you'll see me picking Saskatchewan in that game. I think they're going to be in a real FU mood after blowing that game last week. I mean, they you play that game, 10 times the way that it went, Saskatchewan's winning 9 of them. I mean, they were clearly the better team. You called it. I mean, you had a guy miss 4 field goals and one of them got run back for a touch. By the way, great call on that one. We were at Win City. We were at Win City for it. And I see this happening. I'm like, oh my God. And there was music on and stuff like that. So we just quickly ripped out to where everyone was having a smoke. And on the phone, it's about a 30-second delay.
Oh, okay.
So I gotta hear Dusty's call for this. He's gonna lose his mind on this play. So I knew it was gonna happen. But we did it just to hear you go off. That was a hell of a play. But that's a very fair argument right now, Saskatchewan. And holy smokes, the Bombers just got to take care of business this week, be on a 3-game winning streak, and come in to that Labor Day game in the Banjo Bowl playing well. And it is going to be phenomenal. I guess you're not doing the Labor Day game, but you will be here in the Peg the following weekend for the Banjo Bowl.
I will be doing, I will be. I'm doing Touchdown Pacific this year, and then to Calgary for Calgary Edmonton on the Monday, so Saturday, Monday. And then, I will be in Winnipeg for Banjo Bowl on the following Saturday. So Banjo Bowl, man. Oh, a Banjo Bowl this year between like a possible first place battle between the Riders and Bombers. Please, like, let's go. I can't wait.
You know what you should do? See if there's any way you could pull some strings a little bit and come out on Thursday and join me for NFL kickoff, Chiefs Ravens on the Thursday night.
Jeez, that's a great idea.
And then all the Banjo Bowl festivities on Friday, heading into the game on Saturday. I'll just throw that out there. Yeah.
Great. I can come sit there in person and watch you just fawn over the Chiefs. That's exactly how I want to start the NFL season. What's coming up on WST today, buddy?
Well, we'll be getting into the big news out of Edmonton today. The offer sheets, Patrick Laine being traded to the Habs, the Askarov ask looking to get traded. So there's a bunch of hockey news, which is nice to talk about. Rowicki's coming on, Dave Pagnotta's coming on, so we'll kind of get more about the lay of the land as NHL GMs kind of get back to work, get ready for it. And then we got our big golf tournament here this weekend, the Manitoba Open. Dylan Sandberg from the Jets is playing in it. And Braxton Kuntz, who just finished third at the AM and won 4 straight Manitoba titles, is in it as well. And it's fun. I mean, they've sort of built it up to be got a couple real fun sort of party areas on the course. So we're going to tee that up well. And then you will love this. So regular business through the first 2 hours of the show, Coolbet lines. We will make our picks for the track tonight.
What do you have going on? Come on, give it to me.
At the end of the program, so in one of my fantasy leagues, there's been this big debate. Normally, we always just set it where we get the draft order an hour before, which I always sort of liked. I joked that, Levy, I've been sleeping and having these permutations go through my head. I'm ready for any position. But I mean, a lot of guys do like to mock draft as to where they're going to be. So there's this big thing about how we're going to do the draft order. So at the end of WST today, we will be running a special Tuesday marble race to determine the draft order of our league. And it got me thinking, unfortunately, Remus is away next week, or we might do it for other people throughout the week.
That'd be cool.
Might take submissions because on my computer, I can run it and do OBS and commentate on it like I normally do. So I might take submissions for people. If you need a draft order selected, you send me a request with the teams, and then I can post a video of it. And as long as it's final. So yes, for those of you nuts that love the marble races, we will be selecting our draft order today at the end of the program with the marble race. So it'll be a fun one. But I'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow. A little bit more info as we get closer to CFL picks on the weekend. And listen, I've had a great time with Patty and Jake talking NFL futures the last couple of days when you were away. But we should definitely, before it gets too late, start getting some of your favorites when it comes to players and teams as well. So maybe we can touch on that tomorrow as well. But most importantly tonight, poker tourney, 8
We're
p.m.
up to 24 entries right now. We got 24 entries right there. So
beautiful. All are welcome. Download the Coolbet Poker app. Search lock if you're looking for it right by the magnifying glass. Go in, get in there, and you can all hunt the two of us for the $100 bounty on both of our
My
heads.
whole plan is to just check. Just like KGB and Rounders. It's going to be fun. Have a good show today, Huss. We'll see you online tonight.
See you tonight on the felt.